I want to share a quote with you today. One you may need someday when life tells you that your best years, your best work, or your greatest impact are behind you. Here's the quote. I made a resolve then that I would amount to something if I could, and no hours, nor amount of labor, nor amount of money would deter me from giving the best there was in me. Who do you think said that? Hold that question, because first I want to challenge a false limiting belief that gets passed around far too often. I can't make a winning impact that lasts beyond my working years, or a legacy that blesses my children and my grandchildren, or people I may never even meet. Have you ever felt that? Today I want you to imagine something with me. Imagine you are sitting at a kitchen table somewhere in America. Any kitchen, any table, and someone slides a nickel across the table toward you. Just one nickel, 5 cents. Now imagine that every time someone sits down to eat a piece of fried chicken somewhere in any restaurant, in one, then 10, then hundreds or thousands, that nickel comes back to your table again and again and again. Whether you're awake or asleep, whether you're healthy or sick, whether you're in Kentucky or North Carolina or on a beach or in your car, whether you're alive or whether you're gone. That nickel is not a fantasy. And the man who built that model was 62 years old, sleeping in the back seat of his car with only a small Social Security check of $100 and something he still believed had value. His name was Harland Sanders. You know him as the Colonel. But here's what many people forget. Before Kentucky Fried Chicken became an icon, Sanders had endured failure after failure. He dropped out of school in 6th grade. He worked as a farmhand, as a streetcar conductor, a railroad fireman, insurance salesman, ferry operator, tire salesman. He studied law by correspondence, then he lost that career. He ran businesses that failed. A motel burned down on him. Then a gas station failed. Then a highway bypassed the restaurant he hoped would provide for his future. At an age when many people are told to slow down and settle down and accept what is left, 62, Sanders had to start again, sleeping in his car. But all he had left was a pressure cooker and a recipe, and his determination, and the belief that what he knew still had value. So he got in his car and he started driving. He drove to restaurants. He cooked his chicken in their kitchen. He asked them to put it on their menu. And he was rejected again and again and again, 1,000 times, over 1,000 times. But he kept driving. When a restaurant finally said yes in Utah, Sanders didn't ask to own the building, didn't ask for a salary, he didn't sell away the one thing he had left. He asked for one thing, a nickel for every chicken that they sold that had his recipe, that used his recipe. Think about the brilliance of that. If his recipe helped the rest prosper, it helped Sanders too. Every restaurant that signed on became another little production kitchen that produced while he was somewhere else. Another system that could work while he slept. He had turned a talent into a system. And notice what he did not do. He did not wait until he had enough money to build hundreds of restaurants himself. He did not say, well, if I can't own the whole thing, then I'll own nothing. He connected to other people's kitchens, other people's labor, other people's customers with alignment. When they won, he won. That is a very different way to think about wealth. It's not only accumulation, it's participation in production. By 1964, there were more than 600 locations connected to his concept. He eventually sold his interest, but he remained the face of the empire. By the time he died, 1980, thousands operated around the world. He did not personally cook the meals. He did not stand behind every cash register. He did not own every kitchen. He created something that could produce revenue beyond his years. And that's the idea I want to make sure lands today. There's a difference between owning only when you're present, but owning something that can continue producing even when you're not producing. Because there's a difference between owning a job and a system. There can be a difference between a retirement designed to drain and a retirement that contains assets designed to produce recurring income. So let me ask you, when you look at your retirement, do you own only assets that someday must be sold to fund your life? Or do you also own systems that can keep paying you? Imagine your financial life is a bathtub. For 30 or 40 years, everything flows in. Contributions, employer match, market growth, compounding returns. The tub slowly fills beautifully, then retirement comes and the arrows flip. Now money flows out. Living expenses, healthcare, taxes, inflation, the car that breaks, the grandchild who needs help with the crisis that never checks your calendar. And if the plan depends primarily on the pile outlasting you, eventually you ask, how long will it last? And it affects your emotional life. I want you to invite you to have a different question. What can I build to produce? The shift from depletion to recurring income. From how long can this pile last to how can I own something that produces recurring income for my family and perhaps for causes I care about beyond my years. Harland Sanders, the nickel, he found a way to do that. And sometimes the beginning is not something enormous. It's just one talent, one idea, one disciplined decision. Maybe it's only worth a nickel. But that's one reason that professionally managed apartment communities have interested long-term investors for centuries. And I'm not talking about becoming a landlord or toilets or tenants at midnight or collecting rent. I'm talking about participating passively in professionally operated systems where residents need homes, managers operate the properties, and investor capital is at work. It participates in that production. For me, that is where the Sanders illustration becomes powerful. You do not need to own all the kitchens. You don't even need to understand the recipe, but you have to understand that the system produces revenue. I will speak to you for a moment about a friend named Chuck who spent decades building a manufacturing business. He understood production. He understood that business cannot depend forever on one person and what they do for work. Yet when he looked at his retirement plan, he realized that he had built it almost entirely like a bathtub. Accumulate and then deplete. He said something I've never forgotten. He said, in my business, I would never build a model that would depend on the inventory running out exactly the right time. Why would I build my retirement that way? I had a pause, was thinking, but that question changed the conversation. We were not talking about becoming a landlord. We were talking about whether a portion of his capital could participate in income-producing assets operated by professionals while his role was passive. He was beginning to think like Sanders. Not how many kitchens can I personally run, but what system can keep producing recurring income without my daily presence? Now I want to ask you one question before I close. I want you to sit with it honestly. Harland Sanders was in his 60s. His earlier plans had collapsed. He had experienced rejection and failure. He couldn't look backward and decide that his useful years were over. Harland Sanders, think of what he did. Instead, he took what was still in his hand. It's a recipe, perseverance, determination, grit, and he built something that multiplied far beyond his abilities. So what is your recipe? What is your talent? What is that asset, that system, investment structure, business idea, generosity, plan, or accumulated wisdom that could continue to bless people beyond the years when you personally show up to work? You do not have to start where Sanders started. You don't have to be sleeping in your car in your 60s. You don't need to own 1,000 restaurants, but you do have to begin somewhere if you want to begin something that can outlast you. Come back with me to that nickel on the table. It's small enough to overlook. Sanders didn't try to control every kitchen in America. He took the small thing he possessed and he structured it so that every time value was created, his system could produce again for both people, both sides. That nickel multiplied across meals and generations and locations. And Sanders also used his success to support charitable causes, including medical care and education. His impact was way larger than his own consumption. That is where passive income becomes more than a financial strategy. It becomes stewardship. And stewardship asks a deeper question. Rather than how much can I spend, it asks what has been entrusted to me? What's my experience, my relationships, money, wisdom, and how can I put it to work so that it's creating value? For some people, that may mean helping grandchildren receive an education without crushing debt. For someone else, supporting a church or a hospital or a scholarship or a community or family in crisis. For another, it may simply mean leaving the next generation choices instead of burdens. The mechanisms may differ. The principle does not. Build something that can continue serving long beyond yourself. What if the point is not merely to have enough money until the day you die? What if the point is to build something that can keep doing good after your working years are finished? The most generous people I've ever met are not always the wealthiest. They're often the most intentional. They build assets that produce recurring income. They build plans that can outlast them. They stop asking only, how long will my pile last? They begin asking, how well can my system keep producing revenue? Whom can it bless? What is your vision, your nickel, your talent? What is your desire to bless others? What is the small, disciplined, intentional decision made now that can create recurring value for people you love or people you may never meet? First, I'm not here to tell you what you must buy or what you must do. I'm here to ask you not to surrender to the limiting belief that your best years passed away when your income checks did. If the bathtub illustration stirred something in you, if you heard the drain, and if you can begin asking better questions about what you own and what it produces. If passive multifamily investing is one of the systems you want to understand, my team and I would be honored to have that conversation with you. No pressure, just a discussion about where you are, where you want to go, and whether income producing real estate belongs in your picture. I also have a passive income playbook that explains exactly how that model works for accredited investors, and I'm glad to share that with you. It's simpler than you think. But whether your recipe is real estate, or charitable fund, intellectual property, or a membership, but something only you can create, do not miss the greater message. Your talent doesn't have to be enormous to become consequential. Nickel looks small, the recipe looks small. The 62-year-old man starting over in his car looks small. But perseverance multiplied that nickel. Stewardship multiplied that recipe. Belief multiplied his efforts. So I want to return back to that quote I gave you earlier. I made a resolve then that I was going to amount to something if I could. And no hours or amount of travel or money, nothing would deter me from giving the best that was within me. Those were the words of Harland Sanders. Friends, could that same resolve be in you? Could your experience still bless someone? Could your resources still produce something? Could your wisdom, your assets, your generosity, your talents create an impact that reaches beyond your working years and perhaps beyond your life years? If somewhere inside you there's a voice saying, I can't, I want you to replace that limiting belief, not with arrogance, not with certainty that everything will be easy, but with resolve, with the willingness to use what is in your hand, what is in your heart, with the courage to begin, the belief that a small thing faithfully stewarded can become something much larger than you imagined. So when the world says you're too late, when failure says, when fear says you don't have enough, remember that 62-year-old man and his recipe in the back seat of his car asleep. And answer that limiting belief with two words, I can. Say it with me, I can, because I know you can. You say it one more time like you believe your life depends on it. I can.
It will be my daily prayer that each of you believes you can, and that each of you has impact far beyond your own years, and you will bless many others and you won't quit. It will be my prayer that you leave a legacy of love and caring for others that people will speak highly of long after you are gone. And just maybe someday when your children or grandchildren speak about you, they just might say you got inspired by a speaker, and then you not only became a speaker, but a person who inspired others their entire lives. And then also with their careful investing of their finances into recurring incomes that would bless many beyond your years. It will remain my prayer that you believe you can and that you take action towards this future. Thank you.